Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping, and I'm an Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. And today I thought I'd share with you how I made this sort of clean and layered Christmas card using the Magical Meadow bundle. I made this card because it was in response to the colour challenge at Colour Inspiration, where I'm a crew member. And this week our colours to work with were black, white, real red and shaded spruce. Now, it also being November, it's pretty hard to go past Christmas with those colours. So I made this one and I thought I'd share with you how I made it. So let's crack on and have a look at what we need to get going with. Well, obviously the Magical Meadow bundle, it's this lovely stamp set, and there's all sorts of dies that cut out the shapes and all sorts of extra bits and pieces, some of which we're going to use today. So you definitely need that, and there's a couple of other things that you need along the way. Now, if you see anything that I used today and you'd like to add that to your craft collection and you live in New Zealand, you're welcome to shop with me, and there's a link to my online store in the video description below. So, in terms of card, what do we need? Well, what have I used? Well, I've started with a base of thick white cardstock. For me, it's my standard card size base, so it's the width of an A4 piece of paper, 21 centimetres, scored at 10.5, and I've cut it at 14.8. Now, if you're an imperial person, then just use whatever your standard card size is, because this is my standard card size base, and adjust your mats and things accordingly. Okay, so a base. Now I've got two pieces of real red, and they are 1/2 centimetre smaller, and if you're an imperial person, say 1/4 inch. So 10 by 14.3, and the reason I've got two is that one's for the front and one is going to be for the inside, so I'll just pop it over there. Then you need two more pieces of basic white, but I've just used standard basic white for these. They are cut 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 inch smaller than the real red matte. So these are 9.5 by 13.8. And the reason that there's two of them, well, one's for the inside and one is for the front. And so they're going to end up like that. Now, I'm sure you can see that I've already embossed the front, and I used the Christmas Tidings embossing folder out of the 2023 September to December mini catalogue. So that's a lovely little Christmas one, but you could use whatever you have in your stash if you don't have this one. Okay, so you've got that. Now, we also need some other bits and pieces, so obviously you need a little piece of black. And the little piece of black for the sentiment. I have not used any of the sentiments from Magical Meadow. Instead, I have picked one from this set, Festive and Fun, because I really like that Happy Christmas Wishes. Although I hardly ever use it as Happy Christmas Wishes. I often either use it as Happy Christmas or Christmas Wishes. And I've already done that here. I've white embossed it onto the black, and I have cut it using the Stylish Shapes dies, and I've used this one here. So it is the second to largest of the stitched banners from Stylish Shapes. That is that. Now, if you don't know how to take a sentiment which is a stamp which is Happy Christmas Wishes and turn it into Happy Christmas, there's a little video on my Facebook, on my Jan Clothier Independent Facebook page, which shows you exactly how to do that. There's a little 2-minute tip on how to do that. Okay, so that is the black. Now, we also need some shaded spruce, and we need a piece of shaded spruce that's large enough to do some die cuts from Magic Meadow. And we are going to die cut 2 of this one and 1 of that one. And here they are, already done for us. 1, 2, 3. And we also need a little piece of white, because we are going to stamp ourselves 2 of these little stamps here, and then we're going to use the die from the Magical Meadow bundle to cut them out. So that's these little bits. I'm going to show you how to do those in 2 colours in a moment. And the other thing we need is, you can see that there's little berries on the this little foliage thing here. So you need a little piece of real red just to cut out these dies, and you can see There's a whole lot there that they all cut out at once, but I've cut out plenty so that we'll have some spare. Okay, so what will we do first? Well, I think the thing we'll do first is we will stamp these little rose hips or blueberries or whatever you make them. I've made them into blueberries at times. Today I'm thinking they're more like rose hips. So there's a couple of ways you can two-colour stamp. One is if you've got Stampin' Right markers and you can just colour directly on, which is lovely, and it's one perfectly fine way of doing it. I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to use sponge daubers and daub directly onto the stamp with these. Partly just because I like it gives it a little bit of extra depth of colour, and partly just because it's something a little bit different. So I'm just daubering up my shaded spruce, and I'm just going to pop a little bit on those heads, and then I'm just going to get in there and colour the green bits of the stamp. The dauber will go on its side to get into those little narrow spaces, but if a little bit gets on the hips, doesn't matter. They'll all blend together in the end. So that's the shaded spruce, and then I'm going to get my second dauber and real red, and I'm going to go for the berries because I just like the richness of that colour. It's interesting, I spent many years working at a secondary school, and this green and this red were very much the school colours. So I'm always thinking when I make this card, the first thing I thought of was my old school. Okay, now you can just stamp, or you think, oh, I'll just loosen it up a little bit just to make sure. A little quick breath, and then press down firmly, count to 10 so the ink's got time to transfer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there you have your lovely little two-coloured berries that you're going to use. And the die for those is out of Magical Meadow. It's that little one there. Now, I've already cut us a couple so that we were ready to roll. And the other thing we've got to do before we can get fully underway is we've got to take these little berries and put them onto this. Now you might think that's going to be a really hardcore, difficult job, but it is not. When I die cut them, I left them on my die plate, and I'm simply going to get my silicone mat, a little bit of glue, and just, oops, a little smear. I want the glue smeared out so it's not too thick and heavy. And then I'm going to grab take my pick tool, and the putty end of that this is exactly what this is designed for. So it's a very quick matter of picking up the berry, dabbing it in the glue, transferring it over, and couldn't be easier really. Okay, so now we've got our two foliages complete with berries. Now you notice I haven't done that one, and that's because I intend to cut that one short. We've got that sprig of pine, we've got our sentiment, we've got our rose hips, and we have our card front. So now it's simply a matter of assembling. So we'll start off by adding some glue to the embossed piece. You know me, I like my glue because I like the wiggle room. You want to be close to the edge, but not so close that it's going to ooze out when you press them together. And just because this is a textured surface, I'm putting in a little bit of extra glue to what I normally would. And then we're just going to centre that onto the mat. And when we're happy that it doesn't need to be wiggled into straightness or moved into straightness, then we'll just give it a nice firm press. There's nothing needed to be tucked in behind it, so we can go ahead and adhere this to the card front. And then once that's done, really the fun begins, because now we can start arranging our cluster. Okay, so I always say this to my class people. I always say, nothing's permanent until you've actually glued it down. So lay it out, make sure it looks right before you attach anything. I already know I want that one to be shorter, so I'm just going to give them a prune. I know I want that one to be coming out there. oops, sticky glue fingers. I'm going to have my sentiment going across there. This one will probably need a prune, but I'm not going to do that until I know for sure. And then these ones are going to come across on dimensionals about there and there. So I'm pretty happy with that placement. Now, if you've got a good visual memory, you can go, okay, I know where I'm putting that. I don't need to mark it. If you don't have a good visual memory and you're not sure, then you can always use a little pencil mark somewhere. So I'm pretty sure that's not going to show. I'll do a little pencil mark just where I know the end is going to go. Now, it comes to gluing. If I wanted this firmly adhered and completely flat, I would have used my glue sponge and just glued everywhere. But I actually don't want it to be totally flat on the page. So I'm just going to use very tiny little dibbles of glue along the stem and on some of the leaves at the bottom, but I'm going to leave the ends free. And the reason I'm doing that is just because I want them to look like they're living. So I want them to look like they're moving off the page and, you know, coming to life like they're blowing in the wind. And somehow just having them lift like that a little bit just adds to that sense of vitality and movement. So I'm going to do that. Now I know this one's going to come out there somehow, so I'm going to do similar to that. So little tiny dibbles of glue. Oh, there goes the rain, I can hear it. Just little dibs of glue. Now if you're doing this with just dibbling the glue on like this and it gets a little bit out of control, that's when you would just get a little piece of old sponge and just dab up any excess, so that when you put it onto the card front, you're less likely to get big dobs of glue going in the wrong place. Okay, so we'll just pop them on there because they're kind of the base work. Now, dimensionals, because our little rose hips, we are going to dimensional them on. Well, certainly one of them we are. So, we're going to have one raised up. We could raise them both up. Yeah, it's one of those design decision things, isn't it? Okay, so what I think we'll do is I'm going to get my pencil, just make myself a little mark there, and I am going to glue this one on flat. But if you were doing this, there's no reason at all you couldn't dimensional it up as well. So I'm going to pop that one in there. And then I'm going to pop a dimensional or two on this one. Two. Oh, pretty confident that's not going to show, but just to be sure, I'm going to use a mini on that one there, which is the most visible one. Okay, so we'll just flick off the backs and pop on that one. Now, we are going to add our our Happy Christmas across there. And I think that I don't need this to be quite as long as it currently is, so prune. Let's see, how will that look? Yes. And again with this one, I'm just going to put some glue at the end because I want the tips to look like they're free and growing. Because you have to just tread a fine line, because if you do it too much, then you run the risk that they might rip, and you don't want that either. So you want them firmly on, but with a little bit of lift, so they look like they're alive. Now that is going to go, part of it's going to go across that rose hip, which is already on dimensionals. So I only need dimensionals at that back end, which is going over empty space. So we'll just pop a couple of dimensionals there. And off the back goes. Now I'm going to line that up on my grid paper because I want to maximize the chances of getting it straight, and having it all sort of set up that way does help. Oops, what I did forget to do is I forgot to put a little bit of glue at that end. So so it can adhere onto that raised up one. Now before everything's got a chance to dry, just have a quick look. Doesn't need to be straightened up, and if it does, yep, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're almost on the home stretch. The last thing is a bit of embellishment, and I'm just going to go with classic old basic rhinestone jewels, because I think of all the very many embellishments I have, these are the ones I always come back to. So I'm going to go for a large. Where am I going to put them? There. A medium. I think we'll put them over there. And a small. Just to sort of triangulate around the sentiment and just help draw the eye into that. And then the very last thing is, what did I do on the inside? Well, I'm not going to make it for you now, but you remember that we've got put aside a piece of real red and a piece of basic white. And so all I did there was I took this stamp, which is that one, and I did the same thing with the sponge daubers. So I daubed the green bits green, and I daubed the berries red, and then I simply stamped it and then re-stamped it again without re-inking to give it that sort of more faded look, like it's receding into the background. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed watching me make that clean and layered happy Christmas card using shaded spruce and real red for the Colour Inspiration Colour Challenge. I'm always happy to answer questions, and I can be reached through the details in the video description below and in the end card, which is about to pop up. If you've seen anything that I've used today and you'd like to add it to your craft stash and you live in New Zealand, then you're welcome to shop with me. And again, the details are in the video description below and in the end card that's about to pop up. And if you've liked what you've seen and you haven't already subscribed, please do, so you don't miss anything new that I do. But above all else, everyone, happy stamping.